Hi everyone, meteorologist Joe Chaffee here on this Thursday afternoon. We're going to look at what's going on with Tropical Storm Cindy as it's winding down and making its way northward as it becomes a remnant low. I want to first show you the rainfall estimates based on the radar of what has fallen so far. So the scale is here on the side, so anything yellow is 3 inches, and then it goes up from there, and the darker reds, you have 9-inch rainfall. So you can see there's this fairly extensive area of 3-inch plus rains that extended actually west of Galveston Bay, well, just about to Galveston Bay. And here's Houston. Houston never really got into the heavy rains, but just to the east of Houston, and then on east from there along I-10. You can see this really large area of 3-inch plus rains that extends all across the southern part of Louisiana back to about New Orleans. And in the darker reds, we're talking 6 inches plus right along the immediate coast of southwest Louisiana and also some patches that show up in parts of southeast Louisiana and along the Gulf Coast in Mississippi. I'm going to shift eastward so we can take a look at the New Orleans estimate. Actually, this is from Baton Rouge, and just bear in mind that each radar may be using a different scale, okay? And on this particular scale, the yellows are 4-inch plus amounts. So you've got these 4-inch amounts in southeast Louisiana. The darker green is 2.5 inches through most of around New Orleans. You've got 3 inches on either side, back up to about Baton Rouge, and then you get into the 4, 6, and even some 8-inch amounts as you go east on I-10 across coastal Mississippi and heading into Alabama. And when we look at the Alabama estimates, we'll switch over to that radar, and there you have the Alabama estimates. Here the reds are 6 inches plus, and you have this large area of 3-inch plus rains covering the southern part of the state and also extending into the Florida Panhandle. So, you know, it's quite a big rain producer, and it's still not done. We still have some radar echoes going on as we take a look. I'll give you the wide view of the radar. Let me make sure this is the latest one. And I believe it might very well be, since it's not refreshing. But here you can see where the swirl is. This is the actual circulation, the low-level circulation of Cindy as it is now well inland. It's got that spiral look to it, and these bands of rain are continuing to sweep around it in a counterclockwise fashion. So it's not like the rain from a couple of days ago. That area of rain has advanced, separating itself from the main circulation. So with respect to our weather here in the Northeast, the southern areas of the Northeast and the northern Mid-Atlantic, with respect to this is going to come in 2 pieces, I believe. You're going to get this first surge of rain, some of the remnants from Cindy in its earlier developing form. Those will come through here tomorrow into tomorrow night. And then what will be left will be this circulation that is going to move its way toward us. And if you look at the Hurricane Center models, they all cluster pretty close to anywhere from the Delmarva Peninsula to northern New Jersey in terms of the actual low center. But I'm just going to want to emphasize here that I think what's going to be left is essentially this core. There's going to be a ball of convection that's going to kind of move along and go through rather quickly. It may only last a couple of hours. You'll probably wind up getting a bit more from this lead area here tomorrow than you will from the actual low center, the low pressure center, the remnants of Cindy, the core of Cindy that will come through this area Saturday morning. So I'm thinking that, you know, that goes by. Once that's done, weather conditions could improve pretty quickly here on Saturday. So I don't want to be overly pessimistic here by any stretch of the imagination. And certainly Sunday looks good from a weekend standpoint. Now here's the HRRR model, and I'll show you. This really illustrates what's happening. Here's your core circulation, but you can see this rain area separating itself, moving northeastward, so that as far as the HRRR goes, this is at 4 a.m. Saturday morning. 4 a.m. Friday morning. It's been a long week. I've been doing a lot of these. I'm starting to lose track of where I am. So 4 a.m. Friday morning with this surge of rain that's moving into southern Pennsylvania, over the Delmarva Peninsula and in through northeastern Virginia. The core circulation is still back in southern Arkansas. Okay, so this is going to go through on Friday to some degree, and then you're going to have a gap. You've got this cold front to the north that's kind of complicating this all, as it basically creates the alleyway for this weather system to move along, and that has its own area of showers and thunderstorms across the Great Lakes, and this is all part of the equation that we're going to have to deal with for Friday and for the first part of Saturday. I'm going to switch to the NAM model so we can take it a little beyond this. Now, one of the things I want to point out is I don't believe that the NAM model is handling this tropical system well in terms of the extent of the rain, because when you look at the current radar and you look at what the NAM is producing, it seems like the NAM is missing something. I'm going to just take a look real quick. I'm going to jump to one of the NAM models, the variation of the NAM model, the 3 kilometer, and even here, it doesn't show very much. And you notice that the NAM really weakens that area of rain for Friday. It doesn't really show very much. Then you've got the front coming through, or getting close to coming through early Saturday morning. And here's the rain with the core that comes in between 4 a.m. and then by 10 or 11 o'clock, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, it's long over with. So that when the core moves through, I think it's going to be short and sweet and to the point. The other thing is that works against this being a problem in terms of, say, an all-day rain. This is not a situation where we're going into a northeast wind and bringing in a marine layer and clouding it over. The wave is actually moving almost right along the frontal boundary itself, okay? So there's no time for a northeast wind to set up, in which case, if we had that, we probably would have one of these sort of gray, dreary days with an all-day rain. This is not going to be the case. The fact that the front is coming through and you have this little wave going by is going to tend to want to keep that rainfall in this kind of tight, concentric little ball that's going to move on through. And once that goes by, weather conditions improve, and Sunday, the second part of the weekend, looks pretty good. So not to overstate it, go crazy over this. In terms of total rainfall, I just want to show you it's not a huge deal for us. Yeah, I mean, in some areas for along and west of the Appalachians, there's some stripes of 2, 3, and 4 inch amounts. But, looking at the GFS model, it's sort of a ½ an inch to maybe a few pockets. There's going to be a lot of variation depending on whether you get into some of these downpours. Some places are going to get less than a ½ an inch. Some places some local amounts might wind up being an inch and a half. Wouldn't surprise me, but this is not going to turn into some sort of 5, 6 inch soaking rain event from what I see. Again, I don't want to go too crazy in terms of overstating what's going to happen. So let's real quick just look at weather across the country, because after all, it's not always all about me. Let's put the surface features on, and once this front goes by, you've got this nice little high that comes down. There's another disturbance that's swinging around because you've got this fairly deep trough here in the eastern part of the United States. In the meantime, it's been very hot in parts of the west, particularly the southwest. And I'm going to have to switch to the older GFS because it's not out far enough. One of the things that happens during next week is if you watch these isobars in the west, you see how they're pretty much north to south up in the Pacific Northwest as we start the early part of next week. But gradually those winds turn more northeasterly. So that's going to bring hot air closer to the coastline as we move into the latter part of next week. So that heat wave is going to shift up more into the Pacific Northwest. The Southwest will still stay hot, but now the hot weather will spread all the way up. In the meantime, you have a bit of a ridge here in the east building for the beginning of July, so there might be some hint here. By the way, you can always see what the dates are. Just look up at the top of the map. These are tropical tidbits maps, tropicaltidbits.com. It looks like later next week, and we're going to verify this with the upper air, there is a bit of a high that goes off the mid-Atlantic coast. So it looks like a ridge tries to build in the east for a couple of days. So maybe that first weekend in July, it could get hot for a day or two before another front comes through and it actually does have some kind of front stalled by around the 4th of July, but who knows? This is so far out, you know, in la la land in the future. I don't see any tropical systems to threaten, and that would not be a surprise considering we had 2 tropical storms in 1 week during the month of June, which is very unusual. I'm going to go wide to show you the upper air pattern, and let me just back it up here. Okay, so here we are today. You see that trough, that deep trough in the east and the big ridge in the west continues right through the weekend. So it's this trough really that's picking up, that picks up the remnants of Cindy, and takes it right out off the mid-Atlantic coast, or the northern areas of the mid-Atlantic coast, in this sort of broad west-southwest flow that's set up. And you've got this big upper high sitting down here in the southwest, and that's producing the heat in that particular part of the country. So as we go through next week, you still have troughing in the east, but then that trough lifts south. So this is probably why it gets hot here maybe late next week into the first weekend in July. You've got this ridge in the east, and the trough kind of slants back a bit in the west, and moving beyond, that's temporary. And you see, that's one of the things that's been happening here. These ridges in the east, they've been popping up every couple of weeks, but only lasting for a day or two, or 3 at most. And then the trough is back in. As we move through that first week of July, you have a general troughing in the east here, and you got these weak weather systems moving along in the flow, kind of looking like a summary pattern overall, but nothing out of the ordinary. No big ridges anywhere to bring in long geographic areas in a long duration heat wave. I don't really see that happening. One of the things I just want to point out as we finish up, just one of the things we're going to have to look at as we go deeper into the hurricane season is the fact that there has been, we've seen it quite a bit for the last couple of months. There's been more and more of a tendency for troughs to be in the eastern part of the United States, and that is going to be important, because if we get that kind of troughing as we go deeper into the hurricane season, that opens up an alleyway for something to at least come close to the East Coast. I'm not, I in no way know that something like that is definitely going to happen, obviously, but the fact that the atmosphere signature seems to be now to go back to some kind of troughing in the east, we're going to want to pay a little closer attention to all of this. Latest website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. Angry Ben has the New York City perspective on nycweathernow.com. Thank you very much, all my new YouTube subscribers that have joined me in the last couple of days. Welcome aboard. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. It's absolutely free. You get notified when new videos come up. Please participate in the conversation. Leave your comments, criticisms, observations. Compliments are good too. I'll take them all, and I do get involved in the conversation. So if you have any questions or ideas, just pass them forward. And do let me know what part of the country you're from when you post, because this way it'll give me a better idea of how to answer your question if it's a weather-related specific question. Okay, folks, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.